Welcome to the Tackling Tech podcast, powered by Dyknow. Join us as we tackle all things EdTech with insightful interviews, actionable tips, and strategies that you can implement in your school or district to make technology integration more effective. Whether you're a teacher, a tech coach, or a technology administrator, we're giving you an advantage in your role by sharing stories from people who are passionate about working with their peers and enhancing the learning experience with technology. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now let's tackle some tech.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tackling Tech, a podcast that shares stories about how you can build better collaboration in K-12 schools, and a show that's about all things remote learning. We're coming off the heels of the Remote Learning Summit last Friday, and as we record this right now, we're in the middle of Remote Learning Week, which we're super excited about. We're hosting breakout sessions all week, and we had our first today with Eric Geis, who was on the podcast before, and it was super awesome and helpful and beneficial to our audience. Just a few housekeeping items that we always like to cover. Keep the feedback coming in. We have conversations every week with our audience members, and it's super helpful. It gives us ideas on topics we should be talking about. It also gives us ideas of who we should be talking about. So keep that coming in. Definitely subscribe, rate, and review. That's helpful for us in terms of our audience building and getting more educators like you to listen to Tackling Tech. We're also doing a giveaway. So if you follow the link of dyknow.drift.click/tackling-tech, that's dyknow.drift.click/tackling-tech, you'll be entered to win a $500 Amazon gift card. So it's a good way to get entered to win. We'll enter you for that drawing, and then on the back side, you have a chance to win a $500 Amazon gift card. Follow Tackling Tech at Tackling Tech Pod on Twitter. That is the best place to reach us. You can also visit dyknow.com, which we're continuing to post all of our content. We'll have new blog posts regarding all things remote learning every day. We'll have videos from all of our digital events and conferences. So definitely go to dyknow.com for that. You can also visit our new Facebook group that we posted. It's Technology Coaching Conference Facebook group. Just go into the search bar on Facebook, type in Technology Coaching Conference. You'll have to answer a few questions, but we will let you, if you're a listener to Tackling Tech, we'll let you in. That's a great place where we're trying to build and develop a professional learning network for listeners of Tackling Tech. And it's a great place to connect with other members of the Tackling Tech community. Okay, I think I'm done with plugs for the day. Today is going to be a little bit different than before. So we've been talking with K-12 teachers, tech admins, and tech coaches, and it's been so helpful. I've learned so much, and we've got so many questions that we've decided, hey, let's start talking to the people and the employees of Dyknow, and let's start sharing our stories about how we're operating, how we're supporting our customers, and what a technology company like us is doing during all things remote learning. So without further ado, I am joined by my partner in crime and the person who's responsible for putting all of the great content out to the marketplace that all of you are consuming. Chiara, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I am Tierra. I'm on the marketing team here at Dyknow. I work really closely with Brett to develop our content, talk to our customers, talk to people outside of our network, both at in-person events, when those can happen. Obviously, those are not happening right now. So we're really trying to leverage having conversations that we can have not in person, but virtually with people to learn from them, learn what's important right now to them, and then create these events that we've been hosting, create helpful resources for you, and keep giving you a community that you can learn from.
Yes, so if you haven't been able to tell by that description, that is a lot of work, and that keeps Chiara very busy. And you've been with Dyknow for almost a full year, is that correct?
About a year. In June, it'll be a year.
Probably feels more like 10 working alongside me, but We won't tell anybody. Okay, so this is what we're going to do with this conversation. We're going to start very, very, very high level. And I promise this isn't a Dyknow infomercial because we don't want that to be the case. But I guess for new listeners or people who might not be familiar with Dyknow, how would you describe Dyknow for anyone who's unfamiliar? What do we do?
So I would say first and foremost, we're a teacher tool. Classroom management software is how we define ourselves. I typically, when talking to people, say that we're a classroom monitoring tool. So, teachers have visibility into student screens during class. They can see what students are doing from the comfort of their desk or from walking around the room. They can set up blocking plans, monitor student activity, and just have that confidence and empowerment that students are where they need to be during class. On the back end too, teachers don't even need to look at Dyknow during class. They can be monitoring student activity in the background, have those blocking plans set up, and then after class see kind of a source of truth of what students have been doing throughout the entire class period. And we hear all the time from an admin level, that is really powerful data to have because you can see, what students have been doing throughout a period of time, individual students, individual classes, or the whole school, and kind of get that source of truth for student device activity and how devices are being used in the classroom, not just, what's being done or what tools you're using, actually how they're impacting the classroom in a good or a bad way, and then use that to inform the changes that you make with technology in the classroom.
I think I need to work on my pitch and description because you covered it way better than I would have. So thank you for that. So let's talk about Dyknow in terms of remote learning. So we have hundreds, if not thousands, more like thousands of teachers that are logging in every day using Dyknow when they're in their homes and their students are in their homes. So can you give some perspective of how Dyknow might help teachers who are operating remotely today?
Yeah, so I think an important specification to make is with remote learning, Dyknow is not, a tool that teachers can access any time of the day to check in on what students are doing to combat that. And that is something that's set up throughout the course of the year, not just when remote learning situations present themselves, but, admins can set up blackout settings, which we encourage so that teachers can only monitor during certain hours of the day when it's appropriate. And then additionally, setting up IP restrictions so that they can't be monitored at home. But during this remote learning time, it's really useful that admins can turn off those IP restrictions because teachers can still, use Dyknow to monitor what students are doing. I think one of the biggest things that I've heard in conversations with, tech coaches, admins, teachers during this time of remote learning is that not all students have the same amount of accountability and the same kind of restrictions in their homes that they might need to stay focused throughout the day. So Dyknow can kind of be that supplemental tool to them that they need to make sure they're on task and make sure they're, practicing good digital citizenship, even though they're in their living room or bedroom learning and not necessarily in the classroom where they feel like they're being held accountable. So it's kind of that second level of accountability. In addition, we've seen tons of tweets from teachers using Dyknow in really creative ways. A teacher sent out a tweet the other day showing how she, just by seeing her student's screen, helps them log into their online textbook. Other teachers have been conducting, polls, chatting with students, types of engagement for them to keep communicating with students during this time. Because I think in our conversation with Eric Geist today, we learned that communication is one of the biggest things to make sure students are, having that digital equity they need during this time, and also engaging in remote learning, which they're not always doing, or teachers might not know if they're really being engaged or not. So I think having that, level of monitoring so that students are accountable, engaging students, and then finding creative ways to use the tool if teachers want to get kind of fancy with it.
Yeah, I love that. And then the creativity from our end users, which are the teachers, is inspiring, I will say. It's regular that we'll get a tweet out there about a teacher using Dyknow in a specific way. And it makes us excited because it shows that no matter how that teacher is using it, Dyknow means enough to them for them to capture that, take to Twitter, promote the fact that they're using it a specific way. And it really is validation for all the hard work we're doing. And we're starting to see those different use cases emerge throughout, remote learning. And so those are super exciting to see. And, I would recommend to anyone who's listening, check out the remote learning hashtag on Twitter. It's been a great source of information for me. And then you can also check out the hashtag TechCoachCon, which is the hashtag we've been using as we've been hosting digital events. But there's a wealth of information there that can really get everybody on the same page and excited about how they can use not just Dyknow, but different applications like Dyknow in a remote learning setting. So, Tiara, let's change gears a little bit and talk about those use cases, and the descriptions are good for our customers that are currently using Dyknow. However, we've understood this is a strange time, and evaluation of new tech tools and implementation of new tech tools might not be as quick and easy as it was before COVID-19 hit. And I'll just example I have just off the top of my head is, I was in a PLN for myself as I was getting ramped up on K-12. And one of the things I've heard is, right now, the most important thing from the tech director's seat in a K-12 district is making sure that the current systems in place are working, making sure that teacher to student engagement is happening. And at the end of the day, making sure the students are learning, right? At the core, that's what they're responsible for and they're focused on. So vendors and technology companies trying to push their way in and say we help with remote learning and implement their new system, that might not be the best use of a company like Dyknow's time right now. While we want more people to be using Dyknow because we believe that Dyknow can help fill in some of those gaps, currently it might not be the easiest for those schools and districts to implement solutions. So with that being said, and with just new technology integration maybe not being the easiest, what have you heard and what have you been listening to just in the market and the needs and desires? What are teachers and tech coaches and tech admins online talking about in terms of needs?
Yeah, so I think when this whole remote learning kind of hit us, we decided, to take a step back and start listening rather than telling people that they should be using Dyknow. What we've been hearing, what I've been seeing is that, people don't want to implement and they can't implement 10 new products that can help them with remote learning. They need to take it back to the basics. And I think another shout out to Eric Geis, but on his episode of the podcast that he did with you, he said that at the beginning of this, teachers were reaching out to him saying that, their favorite influencers on Twitter or companies or whoever it may be were sharing all these great tools that they could use. And they felt very overwhelmed because they don't have time to evaluate a new tool. They don't have time to see if it would fit into their lesson or classroom and then start to use it because, one, we're strapped for time. We're in Q4. Learning is very scarce at this point because we only have about a month left in the semester. And then secondly, that's not the focus. Like you said, I think the focus right now is going back to those basics, going back to focusing on students, focusing on teachers, and making sure that students are being accounted for in terms of accountability, in terms of making sure they have access to these tools that can educate them, and making sure teachers can conduct their lessons effectively. So I think what I've heard is that schools and districts are making sure they have the technology tools that are critical to enabling them to facilitate remote learning. And then secondary to that, having those, 4 or 5 tools that they can use to enhance that learning, but not overwhelm teachers and themselves with, a bunch of new tools that they'll need to evaluate during this time. So I think what we've seen is just kind of stripping it back down and seeing what EdTech tools are we using that truly do enhance the lesson and what is kind of frills that we might not need or want to invest in at this moment, and kind of what makes learning the most valuable for both teachers and students.
I love that. And just shout out to Eric Geis. He's been our MVP recently, so we'll plug him at Geis Got Teched. And then his podcast is Got Teched. So if you are a teacher, tech coach, or tech admin, which you probably are if you're listening to Tackling Tech, go check out Eric. He is a wealth of knowledge. I've benefited so much. Sounds like Tierra has as well, just from hearing your sentiment. So check him out. Okay, so if we understand that there is existing technology in place that teachers are trying to go deeper in, but teachers are still trying to, learn. Some teachers might have been adopters and it's easy for them. Some might have been detractors and now they're being forced to use technology for the first time. We're seeing that teachers are overwhelmed maybe by some new requests for technology, and we've seen that, they're trying to figure it out on the fly while being parents, while also being teachers. I think the one thing we've talked a lot about is just this sense of need of community for teachers and tech coaches right now. Can you maybe elaborate on you being close to it and having these conversations and just the need for community?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, the one thing that's happened since all of this started that really made me take a step back was when we launched our Remote Learning Summit, we encouraged people to ask questions and submit questions for our tech coach panelists to answer. And we received over 300 questions. And that blew me away because it made me think that there's really no place for these people, tech coaches, teachers, whoever they may be, to turn to ask those questions. And so if there are 300 questions out there about remote learning that need answering, there should be a community out there to answer it for them. So that's kind of the one thing that really made me take a step back. I think that we have really been working to create a community where tech coaches can learn from each other. And we've been doing that since remote learning started. We kind of identified the tech coach persona as a persona that has not been left behind, but maybe under-acknowledged in the sense that there really is no community for them to maybe bounce ideas off of each other or empathize with each other about the struggles that they face.
Hey, Tierra.
Yeah, go ahead.
You mind if I do? I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, because I think it's okay for us to say that they have been left behind, because I think that's the opportunity for us, and that's the opportunity for me as we've just pursued this path, is that tech coach or instructional technologist, or you name the role, if you're supporting the implementation of technology in the classroom or integrating that technology in a teacher's home, like, chances are you haven't been in your role for a very long time, and it might be a newer role at the district, and you're trying to figure it out on the fly. Like, it's trial by error. You're trying to figure out how to build relationships, how to get different teachers who haven't used technology ever in their careers to use technology. And sometimes you're the only person within a district who's doing it, so you have no one to turn to. So don't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to double down on that, as I think that's kind of, from a sense of community, that's the gap that we've identified, and there's a need in the marketplace, and that's, we're trying to fill the need by connecting individuals, especially at a time right now, who haven't had any place to turn to go and turn to next to someone. And it could be someone, you could be in Ohio and it could be someone in California, but our job as marketers in K-12 education right now is, I feel, it is to help connect these people and help them facilitate and share best practices and ideas. And the power behind being able to do that is tremendous. So, I think it's a gap, and I think we're not going to solve it ourselves, but as long as we can continue to do what we're doing and build a platform that people can go to learn from others, then we'll start moving the tech coach role in the right direction, and there will be more resources, and those people will feel more supported moving forward. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, last year, at the beginning of when I started at Dyknow, we were talking with tech coaches, having conversations about their role and, what they do, and kind of starting to just scratch the surface of what tech coaches do and maybe the needs that aren't being met. And what we heard, kind of the biggest thing was that teacher adoption of technology is one of the biggest challenges. And I think now that we're in this remote learning, tech coaches almost have exactly what they wanted laid out for them, because all their teachers are now forced to use technology. And so they have had the tools that they need and the strategies that they need to coach their teachers to use this technology, but they haven't had those tools and strategies in a remote setting. So I think we've kind of identified that challenge as being, teacher adoption is really low. Now teacher adoption is really high. So how do we help tech coaches, create a community that they can learn from and bounce ideas off of, but apply that to the remote learning setting? And my kind of hope and dream with this is that once we do that, we can then in August, when everyone's back to school, we can then help them bridge that community into actually implementing that technology in the classroom and getting all of their EdTech strategies across the finish line. So I think this is a huge opportunity for tech coaches to really guide their teachers and help them to implement this technology, even though we're kind of forced to do it in this remote learning setting.
I totally agree. And you can all hear the excitement in Tiara's voice as she describes this. And this excitement is in my voice because it's coming from the fact that we're spending a majority of our days having conversations with tech coaches that are in it right now, and that are we're not making this stuff up. We aren't teachers, we're not tech coaches, we're marketers in a software company. We're learning from these people, and we see the opportunity, and the opportunity is building and creating a platform and getting these roles supported so that when they get back and when things get back to normal and there's people walking in the doors of a school and classrooms are active, that these tech coaches feel like they're on offense now because they've spent times doing the right thing and getting these teachers supported from a remote setting. Now these teachers are adopters and they're maximizing the use of all the technology within their schools. So we're building a platform through our content and channels to help empower tech coaches to feel confident. One of those ways we're doing it is Tackling Tech. You're listening to it right now. We are bringing on educators to share their stories about how they're supporting teachers, what obstacles they have during the remote learning or distance learning. And there's other ways we're doing it. So Tiara, what are some of the other ways you can share with the audience on how we're supporting tech coaches and teachers during remote learning?
Yeah, so I think, like you said, we're not tech coaches, we're not teachers. We aren't trying to be the thought leaders in these different categories and topics that we talk about. So I would say, Tackling Tech is a great resource. We also take these conversations and we try to guide them into, defining things that you might be having trouble with, like digital citizenship or professional development or e-learning and remote learning, and create these kind of little nuggets of wisdom and articles that are provided by tech coaches and teachers that we talk to. Those are on our blog. We're posting them pretty frequently now, so you can always find new sources of information on there. We also have a Facebook tech coach community, and this community is based off of our tech coaching conference. So we launched the tech coaching conference back at the end of March, and this conference, we actually planned it prior to the remote learning and coronavirus and all of that, but coincidentally, it fell right after the kind of stay-at-home order was in place. So we had created this digital event to help tech coaches from all over the country and even the world come together and learn from a panel of, or not a panel, a group of presenters who were giving presentations on, tech coaching, coaching the coaches, supporting teachers, basically the spectrum of tech coach topics. It was a great event. We had over 2,000 people registered, brought a lot of people into our audience. And so we thought, okay, if we can bring this many people together to be interested in these presentations, we should create a place for them to engage and connect throughout the year, regardless of what's going on or what they're having challenges with. So we created the Tech Coach Con Facebook community directly related to that event, but more of an extension, kind of the, I guess, ever existing breakout room of that session that people can go to, ask questions. We post events in there frequently. We try to lead some discussions, create kind of, I guess, discussion topics that people can bounce off of, but we really want it to be a place for people to, go for a community that they can learn from, that they can ask questions of, and kind of share new ideas and get a gauge of that. So I think that's everything that we're producing right now. We also have a YouTube channel. That's where we post, all of these presentations from our events. We also have some great customers on there talking about how they conduct tech coaching, how they manage their classrooms with Dyknow, a lot of other things. I don't want to spoil it. So go to the YouTube channel and check those out. I think that's everything. We have a lot going on. Did I miss anything, Brett?
I think you got it. I think I'll close with this question for you. And I'm super curious on how you'd respond to this. So our best source of new people coming into our audience come from our audience members. So that word of mouth referral, someone who listened to an episode of Tackling Tech, someone who went to a technology coaching conference, someone who read a blog post, someone who gained value from those posts, they'll go then and tell someone in their PLN, you know what, Dyknow's producing this content, they're hosting this event, they're creating these podcast episodes, go check them out. So inevitably, we constantly have new people coming in who don't know anything about our product, which is totally fine, but are coming to us to get educated on the topics that really matter. So with this episode, there's going to be someone out there, let's say it's a tech coach that was referred to us by a tech coach in our community. What would your recommendation be to that new person coming into our audience to get up to speed and get connected and start learning from what we're doing or from other people that we help facilitate? What's your first recommendation to them on what they should be doing?
I would say go ahead and follow us on Twitter. Everything that we post is pushed out on there. So I would say if you want to be up to date with what we're doing, go ahead, follow us on there. We also engage with a lot of great thought leaders in the industry on there. So I think it's a really good place to get the conversation started. I would also highly encourage to go to the TechCoachCon hashtag on Twitter. We use this hashtag for all of our events that we host, and we don't really engage in it at all. It is mostly our audience talking, and I think it's one of the best sources of information that I have seen us. We haven't created it, but something that's been secondary to something we've created. Discussion on there, not even related to things that we've produced, but just organic thoughts from tech coaches and teachers around the world, just talking about what they're passionate about, strategies, things like that. I think that would be a great place to start. From there, check out the blog. We have some really great posts on, how you can implement different strategies in your districts. And then if you're interested in checking out the Dyknow product, go to our Schools Like You page. We have a great video on there of Tiffany Todd. She's a tech coach at Linton Stockton School District in Indiana, and she is very passionate about tech coaching. She's very passionate about technology integration, and she's also passionate about Dyknow, which is great for us. She really describes how Dyknow helped her district and her as a tech coach, and I think it's been one of the most watched pieces of content or viewed pieces of content that we've ever produced. And it's a great video. It really kind of captures the tech coach role and our product. But I think start with the community and then dive into our content and then dive into our product. I don't think you should feel like you need to go headfirst into Dyknow. I would kind of take a walk and then run approach, because it can be a bit overwhelming because we do have a lot going on.
We do, and I like those recommendations. On the Tech Coach Con front, I'm all about that. Go visit that hashtag. You might find a former guest of Tackling Tech, Liz Walhoff, who was an attendee for the Remote Learning Summit on this past week. After it got over, I was looking through the hashtag, and I didn't know she was an artist or realize she was an artist. She had drawn pictures of myself, Tierra, and the rest of the panelists and posted it on Twitter, and it was incredible. Tierra shared it with me afterwards, and I'm like, man, we got to bring Elizabeth back to talk about her art next, because it's stuff like that that's super inspiring to us, gets us excited, and it just shows really how incredible the educators who are engaged with our content we're talking to on a regular basis are. So what'd you think of that piece of art?
It was insane. It was uncanny. I mean, we've worked with so Melanie, Sarah, we worked with all of those panelists before. So I would recognize their faces without having to see a picture of them. And it was crazy when I looked at it. It looked like everyone who had been on the call. And I thought it would be, a cool opportunity to bring her on and like live sketch note one of our events or something. So might have to talk to her in the future. Yeah,
I'm looking at it right now. So you can find her at EJ Walhoff, and that's EJWALHOF. Go find that tweet. Dynow's mentioned in it, and you'll see. And literally look up everybody who is on the Remote Learning Summit. Go to Google Images and then go look back at the picture she drew. It's insane. Well, Chiara, thank you for being the first Dyknow employee on Tackling Tech. What'd you think?
It was great. Thank you for having me.
Yes, anytime. We will definitely have you back. Definitely, everybody, be safe out there. If you like what you heard, go to Apple Podcasts, hit the 5 stars, leave a review, and we'll talk to you very, very soon. Be safe out there.